Now, some of the biggest names in African music are on tour in the Pacific. For many African expats, the 4-day Womadelaide Festival is one of the few opportunities they have to connect with the stars of their homelands down under. Alex Parry sent us this report.
Worlds apart but connected by music. Sounds of the planet unite on common soil in Australia, with Africa leading the way.
The king of African pop music, Youssou N'Dour.
La kora.
A kora instrument. We play dates back 7 centuries. We are like a living museum.
Ça, c'est un musée vivant.
At the podium, organisers openly accused the Australian government of having neglected Julian Assange. Authorities deny the claim, saying he's receiving unprecedented consular assistance. But these protesters are not convinced.
They can say what they like, and they always do. It's double speak. We're following the line that the American government wants us to follow.
Here I am at what's being called Ground Zero, where, as you can see behind me, more than 12,500 hectares of bushland here in South Australia has turned to ash. The temperatures are soaring. It's nearly 40 degrees Celsius, with hot and dry conditions set to continue ahead of a possible thunderstorm, which could bring some very welcome rain for firefighters.
Now, Alex, wildfires are a natural event in Australia, but these fires are the worst in this region for 30 years. Some people are now asking whether this is the result of climate change and it might be a sign of worse to come.
Well, looking at the Adelaide Hills, it does receive quite high rainfall in winter, but you only need a few hot days in summer. And as I speak, it's nearly 39 degrees, very low humidity. So when that happens, you have a lot of fuel, a lot of gum trees that are dry and can provide a very good fuel for fires to spread quite rapidly. Authorities are calling this the worst emergency since 1983, when several people died in exactly the same region.
Welcome back. It's time now for Focus. And all this week, we've been meeting French speakers all across the world in places where you'd least expect to find them. And now it's the turn of Australia, which for a couple of mishaps actually could have been a French colony. French explorers did reach the continent, but in the end, the distant southern land became British. And while these days its population hails from all corners of the world, few people down under actually speak the language of Voltaire. With France being on the other side of the planet, many language learners in Australia are now choosing to study something that they can practice much closer to home, meaning Mandarin and other Asian languages are now taking precedence. But we did manage to track down one of the 1% of Australians who can speak French. Isabel Delurba and Alex Parry sent us this report from Sydney. Every morning in Sydney, Sarah Hansen wakes up to the sound of waves. The passionate surfer often starts her day with a session in the water. Raised in Australia by a Korean mother and Danish father, the 28-year-old feels she belongs to this country where nearly half the population has a parent born overseas.
Australia is a mix of many cultures, full of diversity. What we have in common is a lifestyle. We have the ocean, nature, and it's a culture that embraces all others.
Pursuing her curiosity of global cultures, Sarah studied French language at university.
At first, I just wanted to speak French because, for me, it's a very beautiful language.
Joining me now online is France 24's Alex Parry. Alex, Sarah Hansen's relationship is perhaps an example of multicultural Australia, but is she an exception when it comes to learning to speak the French language?
Annette, Sarah is an exception. In Australia, French is very much a language that's seen as an option rather than a necessity. In schools, children have the choice of taking up the language. However, French doesn't make it into the top list of those seen as priority languages. So what we're seeing is a huge emphasis on Asia, not just because of the huge number of migrant families from Asia who have settled in Australia, but because of the economic business and tourism ties that we have here. So languages like Chinese, Japanese, Indonesian are usually taken up first as people are thinking about their careers. But in a recent census, looking at the top 10 languages spoken at home, 80% speak only English. The next most common were Mandarin Chinese, then Italian, then Arabic, Cantonese, Greek, Vietnamese, and then Spanish. So we didn't see French in the top 10 list, but that doesn't mean there is not a huge affection and fascination for the French language in Australia.
Biologist Nick Otway designed this unusual contraption, an artificial uterus. He's brought 28 wobbegong sharks to life in 3 different experiments.
We take the embryos from mum, we place them inside the artificial uterus, and they're placed in this tube here along with the fluid, and then they are monitored, the dissolved oxygen.
And a lot of concern, though, that a decision could well affect the economy there.
That's right. I mean, scientists definitely want the area protected. They say that 50% of the coral has gone already, which is a huge loss for science, a huge loss for tourism, because, of course, lots of people visit this region to go swimming underwater and see Australia's wonderful marine life. But there are also other interests to remember. Agriculture is a big contributor to the problem. Fertiliser runoff causing a lot of the growth of starfish, which eat those coral, and also ports just near the marine parks, which are protected, where pollution goes into the waters. So those green groups, those scientists are fighting very hard for total protection of the region. The government, of course, has to consider industry as well.
Alex, thanks very much. Alex Parry, our correspondent, speaking to us live there from Sydney.
News Corporation chief Rupert Murdoch has finally bowed to public and political pressure and dropped his $12 billion takeover bid for British satellite broadcaster B-Sky B. Well, earlier, Prime Minister David Cameron was grilled in the House of Commons before announcing details of an inquiry into the growing phone hacking scandal.
It was the nail in the coffin for Murdoch's B-Sky B dreams. David Cameron supported a motion in Parliament on Wednesday, pressuring News Corporation to scrap its bid for the remainder of the satellite broadcaster. News Corporation later confirmed that Murdoch had abandoned the merger, a move Cameron welcomed. But the Prime Minister found himself in a war of words in Parliament after he admitted his former staff member and News of the World editor Andy Coulson had raised phone hacking allegations with him before.
He just doesn't get it. He just doesn't get it. He should apologise for the catastrophic error of judgment he made in hiring Andy Coulson.
Cameron defended the decision.
I did so on the basis of assurances that he gave me that he did not know about the phone hacking and he was not involved in criminality. If it turns out he lied, it won't just be that he shouldn't have been in government, it will be that he should be prosecuted.
Good evening, welcome back to France 24. You're watching tonight's Focus. Today we're talking about Colonel Gaddafi and his continuing attempts to hang on to power in Libya. Well, during the start of the campaign there to oust him from power, Gaddafi wasn't shy. He frequently made appearances in public and on TV, denouncing the rebels' efforts to get rid of him. Recently, though, he's not been seen, and now rumours are circulating in a Saudi newspaper, Sharq al-Awsat, that he's not being shy, but he's actually very sick.
From this to this. It's been a long and eccentric journey for the Libyan leader and accused terrorist supporter. At the beginning of his reign in 1969, Gaddafi was a smiling, healthy political figure ready to lead the new Libyan Arab Republic. But over the years, signs of failing health and bizarre behaviour have prompted rumours about his state of mind and body. Television journalist Christian Mallard recounted a live interview he had observed with the colonel.
One day we had to book a live interview with him. He was on the other side, looking completely out of it. The Libyan ambassador at the time, who'd come to help during the interview, told us, "I owe you an explanation." It's one of those days when he... And then we all understood.
Descriptions of Gaddafi's strange habits from US cables were leaked to the world press. The Libyan leader was described in articles as a mercurial and eccentric figure who suffers from severe phobias and acts on whims. Gaddafi is known for his preference for female bodyguards, referred to as his Amazons. and insists on pitching tents to stay in on overseas visits. He's also known for his vanity, dabbling in plastic surgery to keep up his youthful looks for voters. Gaddafi's Brazilian surgeon recalled the bizarre operation during which Gaddafi refused general anaesthetic for fear of being assassinated.
Now, prisoners at the Tacumbu prison in Paraguay have been on hunger strike. It's an attempt to draw attention to their deplorable living conditions. But in a country where poverty is rife, the public just isn't paying attention. Well, that's prompted the prisoners to go to dramatic lengths to highlight their cause.
In the hell of Tacumbu prison, the detainees' lips are sewn tightly shut. Nearly 20 prisoners have been on a hunger strike for more than a month. 35-year-old Francisco is serving time for assault. He was the first to start the protest.
We are all in the same boat here. Nobody is going to stop striking because all of us want to get out of prison. I will never stop. I've decided, as long as I don't have my freedom, I'm staying like this.
Lying for 40 days on dirty mattresses, the strikers sip water through straws and push sweets through the stitches in their mouths. Oscar was sentenced to 3 years for stealing. Like the others, he says he's already done his time, but the prison authorities refuse to let him go.
It's succeed or die. Either they let me go or I'll die in here.
The prison is the biggest and most violent in Paraguay. Everyone inside wants to get out. Hygiene standards are non-existent. The ground is littered with rubbish and the air reeks of urine.
Stolen goods or thoughtful gifts. It's difficult to know how people came to be in possession of Picasso's artwork. The painter gave many people his drawings as presents, a generosity which is causing controversy well after his death.
In a tiny area between the kitchen and the living room, photographer Lucien Clerc hides his treasure. Drawings, engravings and prints signed and dedicated to him by his friend of 20 years, Pablo Picasso. The pair met in Arles in southern France in 1953. Picasso was so impressed by the young photographer's talent, he offered him a gift that would change his life.
He promised to design the cover of my first book. You only have to ask and I'll do it, he said. And so he did what I wanted. He gave us presents because he knew we couldn't buy Picasso.
The artist gave liberally. His hairdresser, tailor and chef were among the lucky ones. But not everybody in possession of a Picasso is feeling fortunate. This electrician worked at the painter's home in the 70s. Picasso's wife Jacqueline gave him 271 works of art that were neither exhibited nor signed. When the electrician had them identified, Picasso's family accused him of holding them illegally. Today, a personally dedicated Picasso drawing can be worth between €3,000 and €50,000.
Breathe in and out of the right nostril. 5.
They are curious, they really want to experience, they are fearless, they don't, care about limits, they are nature loving, and that's really great. And I think that's just the fact that you're so far from whatever, other centers are, makes you more open and more actually curious, which is a very good thing.
Τατζικώτης από τη Θεσσαλονίκη που κατέρευσε προχθές έξω από τράπεζα είναι παλιός συμμαθητής του πατέρα του και προσφέρθηκε να πληρώσει
This man's willing to pay them, but I'm willing to pay this man's pension for like as long as it takes. But that's in Greek, so we're going there and giving him a substantial amount of money. So, but the rest of the money that we raise, we're looking at helping orphanages in Greece who are helping children that have been abandoned by their parents, abused.
Nearly 100 Aboriginal people who fled violence in the Northern Territory community of Yuendamu are expected to be housed in Adelaide for the next week. The blame game between political leaders continues, with nobody accepting responsibility for moving the group to South Australia. Alex Parry reports.
60 adults and 30 children from the Northern Territory's Yuendamu community travelled to Adelaide in buses and private cars. The South Australian government is offering food, accommodation and healthcare, but political bitterness is souring relations between tiers of government.
There's got to be a big message sent to whoever made this stupid decision to give people a one-way ticket south rather than dealing with the issue.
It's been handled atrociously by the Northern Territory and Commonwealth governments. I think that's quite clear.
But for now, let's go back to our top story. The IMF chief Dominic Strauss-Kahn has been denied bail in New York. For more, Australian journalist Alex Parry joins us from Paris.
Well, Bev, it's no secret that Parisians are busy people, but if you ask them to stop and talk about politics, they have all the time in the world. Now, this woman has come forward to say that she is likely to press charges against Dominic Strauss-Kahn. So with this latest allegation, it's not a good look for him. The French people initially, they were dismayed, they were shocked, they were embarrassed, but they said, look, let's give him a chance, let's give him decency, let's see how this is going to develop. Now that he's been denied bail, they say it's looking a lot more serious. It's not just a moral issue, how they accept politicians' behaviour, what they'll be allowed to do. It's nationally embarrassing, no matter what the outcome. The fact that all of the media is concentrating on this story and it has discredited him to some degree. It's embarrassing for France, it's embarrassing for Europe, and it also puts in jeopardy his chances for the 2012 election.
Tonight, triple homicide. Police search for a weapon and a motive.
It became clear police were dealing with a major crime.
The three occupants of the house in Harriet Street were all murdered.
Police believe the family was murdered sometime between Sunday evening and the early hours of Monday morning, but neighbours heard nothing suspicious.
Family and friends of 3 people murdered in Kapunda last week have confronted the alleged killer during a brief court appearance.
Distressed relatives of the murdered family gathered their courage before they faced the accused killer in court. The 18-year-old man showed no emotion as onlookers cried silently.
I would like to also thank the Kapunda community for coming forward and helping us to get to this point. It means a lot to us at the moment, and thank you to all of you.
Before the hearing, Magistrate Bob Harrop warned grieving family and friends to behave appropriately or they'd be removed from the courtroom. But some yelled at the teenager, "Rot in hell," as he was led back into custody.
At Penola in the southeast, which was Mary McKillop's home for many years, the faithful have already taken part in an outdoor mass and are now watching a live telecast of the ceremony in Rome. Alex Parry is with them. Alex, how would you describe the atmosphere?
Well, Emma, about 6,000 people were expected to gather here at the Oval to watch a live telecast of the canonisation ceremony in Rome. It appears the cold weather has got the better of some of them though, and they've decided to watch it indoors. Nonetheless, there's been a huge sense of elation in the town today. Let's not forget the residents have been waiting for this day for many months.
A group of Aboriginal mothers say their teenage boys face an uncertain future because of state government plans to axe a specialist school. The government says it's developing a new and improved replacement program to reduce youth crime, but is making no permanent commitment to it. The Wilton-Endy pilot program was established 3 years ago in response to crimes committed by a group of young men referred to as the Gang of 49. Teenage boys expelled from school or involved in crime receive specialist classes at Angle Park and Elizabeth and are assigned Aboriginal mentors. One mother says the rehabilitation program has been a godsend.
No uncles to show them the right way, because unfortunately they're all alcoholics, you know, so yeah, and these men were like role models, and so they were listening to the workers.
Students are picked up from home every day and helped with career prospects.
Lukey was going around smoking, I think. When the Wilton-Endy came out, he was starting to get real good.
But the Health Department says the program hasn't focused enough on juvenile justice and will end next year.
15 of the young people who are currently in the Wilton-Endy program, they will continue to have their school needs met, but for others it's less important.
Some fear the remaining 25 will re-offend.
It really reinforces the sense of futility about this, which they strongly suspected in the first place, that no one is really very interested in them. They're on the scrap heap.
The Social Inclusion Commissioner David Capo is overseas, but says the new program will better target the boys' needs. Families say if the Wilton-Endy program is axed, their children may turn back to drinking and drugs. They say the cost of funding a permanent program would be far less than keeping the young men in prison.
It's making the boys aware that they've got the brains to do it, you know.
Yeah.
They're not dumb blacks.
The government is yet to decide how many staff will be needed for the new program. Alex Parry, ABC News, Adelaide.
Police say up to 10 men involved in a violent home invasion in Adelaide's southern suburbs early this morning could strike again. A 48-year-old father has a fractured eye socket and deep cuts in his head after trying to protect his family.
5 people were asleep inside their petrol clothes home at Hallett Cove when the men smashed their way in.
Dad got hit in the side of the head with a rock. Broke his eye. He's at hospital at the moment.
The men, of Aboriginal appearance, arrived in 2 Nissan Skylines but wanted the keys to the family's red Ford XR6 and silver Holden Astra. 20-year-old Luke Rowe was trapped upstairs with his mother, girlfriend and brother.
I just grabbed the electric guitar, just try to find some sort of weapon, I guess, to defend myself.
Luke Rowe says the men warned his family not to talk to police or the media, saying they knew where they lived and would come back for them. He says police will help protect the family. South Australians won't need to leave home to experience a taste of Asia. More than 130 artists from all over the country are ready to entertain audiences in the Oz Asia Festival, which begins in Adelaide tonight. Dialogue in Skin is a drumming feast, telling the story of a multicultural Malaysia. If Shakespeare's Hamlet has become passé, try seeing it in Korean, with subtitles of course. Art exhibitions, films, artist workshops and food are also part of the festival. Organisers say the festival attracted about 28,000 people last year. They're hoping that will stretch to well over 30,000 this year. The entire Ausasia event is timed to coincide with the lunar phase, celebrated in the ever-popular Full Moon Lantern Festival.
The Rand government is settling into its 3rd term in government in South Australia, but the Liberal Party says it has new evidence showing electoral laws were broken during the election.
The Labor Party has come under fire for using dodgy how-to-vote cards on election day, and there were some T-shirts in there as well. Alex Parry joins us now from the Adelaide newsroom. Alex, good morning. So what's the Labor Party been accused of?
Well, on election day, in 4 of the state's most marginal seats, Labor Party volunteers wearing T-shirts saying "Put your family first" distributed how-to-vote cards which had Family First name and colours, but actually directed preferences to Labor. So the average voter might have thought these were actually produced by Family First instead of Labor. Now, an initial investigation by Crown Law cleared the Labor Party of any wrongdoing, but now the Liberal Party's lawyers have presented a full and formal document in which they claim there is new evidence the Labor Party breached the Electoral Act.
school holiday that you have, there'll always be something special going on at the South Australian Museum. You'll be able to see great objects, we'll be bringing special ones out for you, there'll be things that you can see and activities that you can really take part in. So come down to the museum and you can have a great time, and it'll be the most exciting way that you can learn about the natural world.
Statistically, we know young people are the most affected population when it comes to sexually transmissible infections. And this is an indication that young people are engaging in unsafe sex and taking risky behaviors. Now, we're also aware that people from culturally and linguistically diverse backgrounds do not necessarily have discussions surrounding sex. It's sort of shrouded in secrecy and almost like a taboo topic. So then this hinders the capacity of the young people being informed or discussing anything sex related. So there's this general lack of awareness about safe sex behaviors or knowledge about risky behaviors, and also affecting their likelihood to get tested.
Oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah. We make respect to ya.
This is your chance to go to Africa without paying $20,000 basically. It's at your doorstep. Who is the president of the SA Parkour Association in Adelaide, and we're having the 3rd anniversary of the monthly jam. Travis?
Thank you.
Tell me, what is the monthly jam?
So the monthly jam is our get-together we have on the first Saturday of each month. This being the 3rd anniversary, we decided to make it a little bit special. We're going to do a bit of a pilgrimage from the gym that we have here to the place where we used to set up and meet the monthly jams, which is the Adelaide Festival Centre. Climbing on walls and jumping on manholes and basically trying not to touch the normal ground the whole way through.